What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist and welcome back to another 40 fact video. Today we are diving into one of the most treacherous, most powerful, most demonic swords in all of Warhammer 40K, Drach'nyen. So this sword is wielded by none other than the despoiler Abaddon, and it is super powerful, so much so that I'd probably say it rivals that of the Emperor's sword. Maybe it's even stronger. This sword is literally just like off the charts as to what it can do. I could change its shape, it steals souls, it's just super overpowered. So, before I start the video, I just want to let you guys know that if you think there is a more powerful weapon, let me know down in the comments and we'll kind of compare and contrast to see what is the strongest weapon in all of Warhammer 40K. So without further ado, guys, let's dive into these 40 facts. Drach'nyen is known by many names: the Demon Sword, the End of Empires, and the Echo of the First Murder. It is an ancient weapon of malice that is currently bound within this Demon Sword, and it is now wielded by none other than Abaddon. Now, Drach'nyen can take on multiple forms, and its only appearance is as a great blade within the hands of Abaddon, because that is what the War Master chooses it to take. In truth, this sword has no real shape, no real size, and literally it is almost unable to be fully comprehended by the minds of humanity. Like I've stated before, this weapon has no real form, however, Abaddon gives it such. So when we look at it, what we're actually seeing is a representation of what Abaddon wields this immense powerful blade to be, and that is a massive greatsword. It has almost like spikes jutting out of the hilt, it has golden like plating on it, and the blade itself actually has faces on it, and these faces are all the souls that it's killed, so that's why they look like they're in pain, they're in torment, they're in agony. So yeah, this is a pretty gruely looking sword. It's just nasty. Now, even though this is a demonic weapon, its origins, its history, its lore is deeply intertwined with that of humanity. Drach'nyen's birth occurred when the very first human willingly murdered one of its own, and this act of evil was the original seed that would grow to become one of the most powerful evil entities in the warp. Throughout the untold millennia within the warp, this demon began attaining power, gaining more souls, gaining strength basically through the evil actions of humanity, whether it was murder, malintent, pretty much anything that the Chaos Gods embody. That's what was fueling this weapon. So much so that it got to the point where the Emperor of Mankind had to act because it was growing to be too powerful. So now, being the powerful entity that it was, Drach'nyen sought a suitable host for itself, and so it began roaming the battlefields of the Great Crusade, especially during the Horus Heresy. It then found the will of the Emperor that humanity had ventured inside of the Eldar Webway in what had secretly become known as the Imperial Webway Project. So this was a realm of both physical, yet in the warp. So because of this, Drach'nyen could roam its tunnels without taking an organic being as a host. However, the demon soon discovered that its true form left it highly vulnerable to physical attacks. So again, the Emperor took it upon himself to try and end the demon's life here and now that it was within the webway. So, seeking to slay the demon, the Emperor had tasked his most powerful loyal warriors, the Adeptus Custodes, as well as the Sisters of Silence, to go into the warp and kill Drach'nyen before it could truly become a menace by finding a host. They did manage to inflict serious wounds, and the wounded Drach'nyen hid amongst its lesser kin, and reverted back to its original plan, to find a host for demonic possession. Throughout the years, it finally found somebody, and it was a man named Enkir Morava, which was a princept of the Reaper-class battle titan, the Black Sky. So this is when he began invading his mind, Drach'nyen forced the Princept to assassinate both of his Moderati while keeping control of the Black Sky. The destructive power that it now commanded let the demon rejoice. However, even though it had failed to consider that it was not only the Titan prowling the battlefield, but also himself. So for quite some time, Drach'nyen possessed the Titan, and it was out on the battlefield fighting other Titans. However, it's just a machine with no real, mortal host. It couldn't fight at its full potential, and the Titan that it was taking control of sustained massive damage. Because of this, he had no choice but to leave the Titan and find another suitable host, the Archimandrite. So basically, the Archimandrite is a Mechanicum construct which has super powerful weaponry. It has an augmented chassis that is still controlled by a living human being, one that Drach'nyen can possess. And so this would be the ideal body which would he use to try and gain his power back. With now a powerful host body, Drach'nyen was near unstoppable. He began ending empires on his own, annihilating Sisters of Silence with its relic weaponry. Literally no one can stand before it. In short, Drach'nyen became the destroyer of Imperial Knights, squashing the pilots before they could even begin to muster an attack. So much so that Drach'nyen was almost at the top of his power. It wasn't until he fought a Legio Custodes dreadnought that finally blew apart its physical body. However, Drach'nyen was not truly defeated. He shed its host skin and he retreated once again, but this time the Emperor physically stepped in. So this is when the Emperor and Drach'nyen met once again in the warp, and the two would do battle. Or so, that's what the Emperor thought. Unfortunately, the Emperor's power was so immense that a new dawn illuminated the tunnels of the webway. His literal anger became manifested into an army of golden specters. One of these, however, was said to have a huge resemblance to the deceased Primarch, Ferrus Manus. Seeing this, literal demons died at the mere sight of this golden light, and Drach'nyen had no choice but to flee the Emperor's wrath. Now this next part is where it literally gets intense. This is when the Emperor said, "Show yourself," and for some reason or another, Drach'nyen felt compelled to obey. Drach'nyen then faced the Emperor, having taken the form of the very man that had given it birth, a fur-wearing savage bearing jewelry made of bones, and he was also wielding a primitive spear. This is the man to have said to cause the first murder. This is when the demon bled from hundreds of cuts, yet he found the energy to hurl himself at the Emperor, similar to what a cornered predator would do. However, the Emperor charged the abomination as well, both opponents striking at the same time. 5 long sword-like talons pierced the master of mankind's golden armor, and the Emperor bled profusely, but his will would not be broken. Letting go of his flaming sword, the Emperor then seized the demon with both of his hands, and in a golden radiance of light, he forced Drach'nyen to adopt a new form, a fine sword that pierced his body in its rage. This sword's bone blade had hundreds of tiny mouths which hungrily lapped at the divine blood running from the Emperor's wound. Before the Emperor pulled the sword from his gut, he ordered one of his loyal Custodes forward, and he rammed the sword, now named Drach'nyen, into this Custodes' torso, careful not to hit any vital organ, and thus binded the demon to the flesh of his favorite Gene son. The sword vanished, leaving Drach'nyen trapped inside the Custodian's body. And with a single order, the Emperor told his faithful guardian to vanish into the webway, to never be seen again. So with this little passage, there's a lot that went on here. First and foremost, like we've known before, Drach'nyen has no real form. At this point, he had no real name, and this is when the Emperor gave him both a form and a name. Apparently this form is very similar to the form we see Abaddon used. He's got a blade, he's got souls on there, and there's like spikes coming out of it, which is really interesting. And on top of that, that's where he got the name Drach'nyen. So this powerful demonic entity was pretty much crafted by the Emperor, if you think about it. And also, I find it a little bit hard to believe that the Emperor couldn't straight outright kill it. Instead, he had to bind it to a custody and order him to basically run into exile. I don't know. I feel like more could have been done to prevent this entity from ever being seen again. And as we can see, it was seen again. Abaddon now wields it. So, will there be a reunion between Drach'nyen and the Emperor? I think so. But anyway, let's continue on with the lore. So this next part is very unclear as to what exactly happened. However, it was during the First Black Crusade where Abaddon finally found this blade. So something had to happen to where the custody either died or the demon took control of the custody and somehow made its way into the material world. Because pretty much like there's no other way as to how Abaddon got in contact with it, because he didn't find it in the warp. He didn't find his a custody. He found the blade. So something happened here that we're not 100% sure of, but hopefully we get some answers as to what exactly occurred. But yeah, anyway, the sword was found in the planet of Erlon. It was within a haunted labyrinth in a stasis chamber, where apparently it had been there for millennia. So basically, once Abaddon got control of the sword, that's when the sword accepted him, and all the energy and power of the blade got transferred to Abaddon, essentially making him a huge threat, so much so that demons feared him. They called it the Thorn of Reality, the Shard of Madness. Literally, this weapon just multiplied Abaddon's power, maybe even 100-fold. And literally, this is what's making him nigh unstoppable currently. So with this blade, it's powerful enough to literally slice clean through a Land Raider. One of the most toughest vehicles in the game can just, or in the lore, can literally just fall apart to Drach'nyen. That's crazy. So actually, now that I'm kind of rereading the lore behind the First Crusade, apparently there was a man in golden armor that kind of helped Abaddon get to where the blade was. So obviously that's none other than a freaking custody. Why would a custody help Abaddon? Unless he's been corrupted by the blade, which most likely that's what it is. So most likely this man clad in golden armor is Ra, the Adeptus Custodi that the Emperor basically put the sword into. So that shows you that even though the latest novel or the latest Codex of the Adeptus Custodes states that no custody has ever been tainted, has ever been corrupted, has ever been fallen to chaos, this I guess would be an instance proving otherwise, showing that chaos itself, like the four chaos gods, aren't strong enough to corrupt a custody. However, this blade can, and that just shows you how powerful it is. Because if a chaos god can't do it, this demon can. That just blows my mind. That just kind of shows you the perspective of like power scaling as to how powerful this blade is, which also kind of sounds right, because then that also explains why the Emperor couldn't outright kill it, as powerful as he may be. So, wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. Now, if you guys want more lore into Drach'nyen, into the origins and whatnot, I highly recommend you guys read the novel, I believe it's called Master of Mankind, which is the one that basically follows the Emperor during the Great Crusade and whatnot. A lot of interesting things are actually in that book, not just talking about, Drach'nyen. So yeah, definitely a great read to pick up. And also pick up the Codex for Chaos. It kind of talks about the Black Crusades a little bit more in there, which has to do with Abaddon and the Blade and whatnot. So again, if you want more things to read, highly recommend those two. So yeah, with that being said, that kind of brings us to the end of this video. Again, I know that Drach'nyen is super powerful, but if you guys think there is a blade more powerful than this, let me know. I highly doubt it, but maybe there's something out there, or at least what comes close. What's number 2 in your opinion? Because if the Emperor can't kill it, that's something. Another thing too is that I really wish they can update the model for Abaddon the Despoiler, because I used to have this model back in the day, and I know the pains of Abaddon the Armless. The metal just would not stick no matter what. I tried wood glue, I tried freaking, super glue. Hell, I even tried rubber cement at one point. And it's like, once I did get it to stick, even if I just literally like dropped it, it would literally just break apart, like so easy. So yeah, we need a new Abaddon model, badly. Even more so than I think the orcs need a new Gasgul model. But I'm pretty sure they're probably, you know, it won't be it will be a while till we get a new Abaddon model, because in order to get somebody this important to the lore, there's got to be like a whole campaign around it. You got to have multiple books coming out and explaining what's following Abaddon, or what's causing him to come into play now. And it makes sense, because I mean that's Gilliman's whole thing right now, fighting chaos, pushing back the chaotic tide that's coming across the Imperium. So it's a possibility, it's just, you gotta wait and see. So yeah, I mean that's all the lore I've got on Drach'nyen. I believe we have lore on Abaddon. If I find it, I'll try and link it at the end of the video. If not, expect some lore on this bad boy soon, because this spiky boy is actually pretty cool, regardless of how silly his little headdress thing is. I mean, this is why I always like helmets on characters. I never like seeing their faces. I feel like it takes away from the badassery. But again, it gives them character. But anyway, I'm going on a different tangent. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought about Drach'nyen. Do you think the Golden Warrior was the corrupted Adeptus Custodi? And do you think this blade is literally the strongest weapon in all of 40k? Again, let me know what you think, and I'll be seeing you guys tomorrow. Again, this is the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll see you then.